Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
So welcome back. And we'll now do our traditional introductions. I'll go first. Jeff.
I'm Len.
I'm Tim.
I'm Monty.
I'm Kay.
My name is Harley.
I'm Ryan.
Mark.
Jose.
Richard.
Jerry. My name is Chandler.
David.
My name is Oswaldo.
Peter.
Paul.
I'm Shantanu.
My name is Ray.
My name is Cass.
I'm Jack.
My name is David.
Dennis.
My name is Henry.
My name is Mark.
Michael.
My name is Gary.
I'm Carl.
And Pat. I call myself Jay.
I'm Tom.
I'm John.
John.
My name is Jerry.
I'm Grisha. I'm Nathan.
John. Well, today we have the good fortune of welcoming Bill Weber, who's been here a number of times before. Bill is a senior Vipassana practitioner and a graduate from Spirit Rock's Community Dharma Leader Program. He teaches beginning meditation classes and day-longs. He has studied for the past 10 years with E.G. Cash, among others, and has 15 years of extensive retreat practice. He is also a documentary filmmaker and video editor. And for those of you who have seen We Were Here, you know what I'm talking about. So, welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I guess you know now my name is Bill. I somehow missed the loop. I remember coming to GBF probably 21, 22 years ago. So this sitting group has really been functioning for a long time. I don't know if you guys take much recognition in that, but that's really pretty astounding. The group's been around for that long. And as the Dharma teaches us, it's gone through many, many changes and iterations and continues to sort of reappear and reinvent itself. And I'm very happy to be back and feeling a part of that again. They called in, somebody from GBF called and asked me to speak quite a number of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and I said, give me time to think about a talk. So I said, I'll do it in October, and this is back in April or something. And then in my typical fashion, I sort of sit on it for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like 3 or 4 days ago, and it's like, I really have to start forming something. All these months that I had have gone by pretty quickly. But the other thing that happens when I sort of agree to do a talk is that I really try to examine what is up in my life and how the Dharma is working and informing itself in my life. And that's always really helpful, and that's one of the real joys and beauties about speaking about this practice, is that I really get a chance to pay attention to how it's playing out in my own life. Because what I most like to do when I come and speak at groups like this is share something that is relevant and personal and beneficial to my own practice. And this has been an interesting year for practice for me. I've been, the blurb about me is about 5 or 10 years old now. It's since I've been speaking here for so long. And, so I've been practicing for probably 20 some years. And it like the sitting group ebbs and flows and goes through different changes. But this has been a pretty rich year in a way. I thought I was really sort of not as connected to the Dharma as I had been in my past. And at the beginning of this year, my partner, my husband, said, let's start a daily sitting practice. And this was new for him. And he's really kept me to it. So for especially the first 5 months out of this year, we were sitting 5 times a week for the most part. And just getting up in the morning, going down and sitting for, 30 minutes. And in my 20 plus years of practice, I don't know if I've ever been quite that consistent in a daily fashion with it. And it's been really interesting to watch how that played out in my life, how that played out throughout my day, how that plays out throughout my week, and how it's really brought to me a greater sense of awareness of what is happening when it's happening. Through this, just in the morning, doing what we've been doing here for the last half hour, and it's just doing a really simple paying attention in a quiet way to what is happening. And, I'm sure, I don't know whether there's 40 of us in here or 35 or whatever, everybody would have a different story about what happened in that last 30 minutes. And even within that 30 minutes, your own story has certainly changed. But it's like, okay, now this is happening. And there might be some moments of really clear awareness of this breath, this body sensation, this thinking mind, whatever it is. And it's this awareness practice that has really sort of been rich for me in these last couple months this year. But I'm also wanting to bring a different twist to this awareness practice, and it's awareness of our reactive nature, of our reactive sense of self, of our reactions to things that arise, that I have found very, very interesting to pay attention to bring awareness to. A lot of my teachers are in the introduction of me, they mentioned Eugene Cash, and Eugene has been a teacher of mine for quite a while. And Eugene's gone through a lot in the last couple of years. He's had a couple of really bad bike accidents. He just had another one again. And but he's doing okay. He's hanging in there. But he's really become aware of the frailty of the body and various things. But he told me a while ago, he says, my practice right now, and he's been teaching and studying a lot of different practices. It's just awareness practice. It's really just awareness practice. What is happening now? And sort of what's my relationship to it? There's a book called Intuitive Awareness that Ajahn Sumedho, one of Ajahn Chah's senior students who set up quite a Buddhist Sangha in England, and is now actually since retired, wrote this book called Intuitive Awareness. And on the back of it, I just want to read this about awareness as a sense of awareness that I want to bring into my talk today. Meditation can mean all kinds of things. It's a word that includes any kind of mental practices, good or bad. But when I use the word, what I'm mainly using it for is that sense of centering, that sense of establishing, resting in the center. The only way that one can really do this is not to try and think about it and analyze it. You have to trust in it in just a simple act of attention, of awareness. It's so simple and so direct that our complicated minds get very confused. What's he talking about? I've never seen any still point. I've never found a still point in me. When I sit and meditate, there's nothing still about it. But there's an awareness of that. Even if you think you've never had a still point, or you're confused, messed up character that really can't meditate, trust in that awareness of that very perception. So this awareness that can just be aware of whatever it is, our awareness that we might not even, that we were confused about what awareness might be. There's an awareness that can actually touch and connect with that. The practice that my partner and I do in the morning, or the practice that I do, I can't really speak for him, is that I use certain points to establish my awareness, to try to connect with that stillness. And I use the breath, which is, quite the traditional way of being centered, of trying to connect, of reaching that stillness. And I also use the body a lot, the sensations of the body, the touch of my butt on the cushion, or the touch of my hands together, or the hands in my lap. These feelings that are these sense doors that are very alive and very much in the present, that you can just say, you can apply an awareness to. It's like this breath. I'm aware of the abdomen expanding. I'm aware of the abdomen contracting. And it's a practice of just building this simple awareness. And I encourage you all to reflect for a moment about the 30 minutes that we all sat here together. Were there moments of awareness for you when you connected with something? When it was just a simple thing of this. This is here, this is now, and it's just this. In preparing for this talk, too, I was looking at Spirit Rock's website because I know they're doing a lot of awareness work at Spirit Rock now also. And they have a day-long next week, and this was their blurb for their day-long. The paradox of awareness is very profound and yet very simple. It can't be described because it has no objective qualities and no limitation. It is utterly peaceful, and it is also insightful, so it sees through all illusions. No matter where we are, no matter what we are doing, we always have immediate access to that inner stillness. Once we know how to pay attention to it, it can be experienced in an instant, in all circumstances. One thing I really liked about this quote was they describe it as having no objective qualities and no limitations. There's something that is very non-judgmental about a very simple awareness, a very bare attention. It's just like, oh, just this, just this. When I was sitting here myself, there were a number of things that I was aware of. And one thing for me is certainly the sensations that come up around giving a talk. There's a little bit of fear for me when I talk. So when I said I'm aware of a tightness of body, I'm aware of a very active mind that's like, oh, I can say this, and I don't want to forget this, and I don't want to, I want to speak from my heart. I don't want to just speak out of experience, or out of, something that I heard somebody say. So there's a very active mind that I can be aware of. And that awareness can just be there and not be caught up in the story, not be identified with the story. And there's a sense of peace and acceptance that comes then with this tight body, with this very active mind. There's the awareness that we practice when we sit, but there's also awareness that I think we're all familiar with, that we just experience in our lives sometimes. And I'd like to bring a little bit of this up now too, just to key all of us back into how we are aware, how it is this innate ability that we all have that's always present for us. I think I've told this story here before, but one thing that was really sort of groundbreaking for me was an experience I had one time when I was really sick. I was visiting some friends in Portland, and I got this really nasty flu. And I don't think my body had ever been in such pain for quite a while. I was staying over at a friend's house, and nothing would make me feel better. Lying down, I was either hot, I was cold. I mean, it was just one of those experiences I think we've all had where you just feel like crap. And at the same time I was there, I had this very clear awareness of being in this painful body. It was very clear, and that awareness was not sick. That awareness had no pain. That awareness was clear, unencumbered, uncolored, and not involved in the sickness. And it was like, oh yeah, there's this possibility to see things even when we're in the middle of the experience of it. And within that awareness was also the freedom of realizing the part of me that wasn't sick, that wasn't in pain, that was just present for whatever was going on. And very alive with it. So, think about these moments that maybe you've had in your life when there's this really clear connection with something that it's hard to describe because, even that Spirit Rock blurb says it's indescribable, but it's just a clear, bare attention, knowledge, connection, knowing that we have that's innate in with us. Another time I think we can experience this kind of awareness is when things go really bad. When something really jars us and wakes us up in such a way that our awareness is very alive. There are moments in my life when I look back on it. I can go back to my childhood when JFK died and I was in 5th or 6th grade. And that day is still very clear to me. And because there was something that just woke me up and my awareness was like super sharp. I can picture, my 6th grade teacher and the classroom that I was in. I had the same experience with 9/11. I think we all do, where we were when we first heard about or saw, the planes and the towers. There's something about some trauma that can shock us to such a point that our awareness becomes forefront. It's just like, I think we also have the ability in these moments sometimes to respond in ways that are more appropriate. We can become more helpful. We can become more kind. We become more alert. We can become more appreciative. There's something about this awareness that just wakes up in moments of great trauma or tragedy. So what I found in a daily practice is that my practicing as much as I can awareness in my sitting practice, it would come up throughout the day for me, and it grew and grew as time went on, as I did this for a longer period of time. And I found this to be very beneficial because I would be involved in something and all of a sudden I could bring some awareness to it. It's like, this is what's happening now. This is what's arising now. But the thing I really became aware of is my own reactive self. How I generally react to things. I mentioned earlier they asked me to do a talk 6 months ago, and yet I started to freak out a few days ago. This is how I react to things. This is sort of my pattern. This is sort of my personality with this. I procrastinate. And then when the time comes, I get nervous. I get tense. I get anxious. This is my reactive self. And I become more and more aware of my reactive self and how it plays out throughout the day. So this is mainly what I wanted to talk about this morning, was bringing awareness to our own set of reactions. Because something happens and almost immediately we start reacting to it. I was walking over here this morning and it's a beautiful morning out there, and I live up at the top of the hill in the Castro. And so I walked through the Castro coming over here, and there are a lot of very good-looking guys out right now in gym shorts and tight shirts. And so my experience is, first, it's an experience of sight. I see somebody, and I see somebody walking to me. And then I have this whole series of reactions around it. Gee, he's cute, I wish I knew him. There's the physical reactions of, the lower chakras can get moving a little bit, and there can be a little bit of sexual energy around that. And then there's the whole set of mind activity that can go around that. I want that. This whole litany of judgments. I wish I was younger. I wish I was more attractive. Maybe he would pay attention to me. All of this just from this one simple act of seeing something. And then all of these reactions come up. And all these reactions that are unique to me, that many of us might share, but that can be very unique to my own experience. And other people might have a whole different set of experiences around that. And for me, the unique experiences are for being older, for being gay, for being male, for being in San Francisco. All these things color my reaction to this very simple act of seeing something. I went to the Castro Street Fair last Sunday, and I really enjoyed it, but one thing that really became clear to me was we all have these reactive selves, and there's such a variety of them. I was watching the crowd go up and down the street, and the range of LGBT types that were out there was huge, from young to old, multiracial, men, women, gender aspecific, class, the rich, the poor, the in-between, the people that like to dance, the people that like to do country, the people that like to do volunteer work. There are all these different ranges of human experience out there, and I was sort of watching how different people react to different things. And with our range of types come this huge range of reactions. And so often I get caught up in my own reactions to things and thinking that they're so important and so real. But I found it really refreshing to see, this young lesbian from Oakland has a whole different range of reactions and experiences than I do. And so maybe mine aren't quite so strong and serious and important in a way. Just when I sort of saw this range of reactive types out in front of me. And as I'm speaking, I can look around the room, and we don't have the range that the Castro Street Fair had, but we all have this range of reactions in here that are sort of unique to us. And at the same time, how do we all take our own reactions to being something that is, again, sort of important and real and unmovable, or whatever it is, just how we react to situations when they arise. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Enneagram. There's a lot I like. The Enneagram does the 9 different personality types. And I bring this up now because I want to talk about things that help gauge our reactive process, our reactive states. Things that help inform it for us. And we all have these different personalities. And the Enneagram talks about 9 dominant personality types. They're the investigator, the reformer, the helper, the achiever, the individualist, the investigator, the loyalist, the enthusiast, the challenger, the peacemaker. And we all sort of fall into one of these main types. And from the Enneagram, it is common to find a little of yourself in all 9 of the types, although one of them should stand as being closest to yourself. Everyone emerges from childhood with one of the 9 types dominating their personality, with inborn temperament and other prenatal factors being main determinants of our type. In the Enneagram, I fall into what is probably called the loyalist, which is also it's also somebody that deals with fear a lot. I'm very familiar with fear, And my reaction to things oftentimes is to be a little bit afraid. I find find this informative because our personalities, as I've been saying, really help gauge how we react to things. So, consider for a moment your own personality type and how that influences how we respond to the world, how we respond to things that we can apply awareness to, and the awareness we can apply to that personality type, and the awareness that we can apply to the reactions that come from that personality type. I hope I'm not getting too airy-fairy here, and I hope this is of some use because I've actually found this to be very helpful, is to apply awareness to my own reactive self, and my own reactive self being in part informed by my personality type, my tendency towards fear as being one of them. The other thing I think that comes up, so we go out into the world, we live our lives, things happen, we're stimulated in some way or another, we react. To me, that's sort of the course of our lives, is that we're constantly reacting to what's happening around us. And like I mentioned, I see somebody on the street, I have this whole world of reactions around that. Something else happens, and I have this whole, the scope of emotions can come up around that. And seeing somebody on the street, like I just mentioned, there can be some lust or desire that comes up. There can be judgment or anger or fear. Or I was looking through a list of the various emotions that we all go through, that we all experience, throughout our day. Envy, expectation, wonder, surprise, happiness, sadness, amusement, wariness, cowardice, courage, cruelty, pride, patience, relaxation, goodwill, togetherness, respect, envy, and it goes on and on and on. The 10,000 joys and sorrows that visit us, all these different emotions that are reactions to whatever it is that we experience, are reactions. An emotion arises. I think awareness is often pointed to the earlier experiences of things arising, the feeling of a breath, the beginning of an emotion. But what I found really useful is applying to awareness of the reaction once these things have already gotten some motion. And I want to give you a few examples of how this has been helpful for me in my practice. I find myself in the middle of the day, let's say in traffic, and somebody cuts me off. And I found myself getting very angry. And I go through this whole mental process of how dare they. San Francisco's gotten so crowded that, the traffic has gotten so bad. The people in cars don't pay attention to what they're doing anymore. I'm lost in this whole world of anger. And yet something then can come up. It's like an awareness of I am off in this world of anger. And within that awareness, there's some space, there's some acceptance, there's some alignment to what is really happening to me right at that moment. And there's a little bit of loss of identification with it. It's not like I am so angry and my anger is so righteous. It's just like anger is there and I can experience it. I can experience what it feels like in the body. I can watch myself go through this. I can watch my reactive self be angry. And within that there is some freedom. One thing that I find really helpful to use awareness with is the reactive world of judgments. I used to teach beginning meditation classes for a while, and probably taught, I don't know, hundreds of people beginning meditation. And one thing that was really universal that people would talk about, and that I know personally from myself, is the judging mind. We start to pay attention, we get quiet, and we notice how much we judge. This is not the experience I should be having. This is not the experience I want to be having. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I can't do this. All these different layers of judgment that I think we all are familiar with. This balance of this isn't good enough, or this is, I want this to be better, or whatever. This whole layer of judgment. But the possibility of applying awareness to that can have the same effect that I just mentioned with the anger. Something arises, we have this whole reactive state of judgment around it, and yet awareness of that judgment is just like, oh yeah, now I'm judging. There's a spaciousness that can come around that. There's an acceptance, there's an alignment that can come around that. It's just judging. It's just judging. I find myself getting ahead of myself sometimes, so I'm trying to, again, apply what I'm talking about to my experience right now. A little bit of anxiousness comes up. It's my reaction to talking. It's my reaction to giving a talk, to trying to speak this morning. There's a little bit of tightness in the body around that. So again, just to sort of take a moment, for me to just take a moment and to be aware of that, I feel a little bit more centered, a little bit more grounded. Awareness of reactions. I haven't heard people talk about this so much, but I've been finding it really helpful to use in my own practice. You can use awareness of the reaction of liking something, or the awareness of the reaction of not liking something. It works with whatever our reactions are, whatever emotion, whatever train of mind we go on with it. The awareness of, I'm on this complete fantasy world of thought around this right now, and just this is the awareness of that. This is what I'm going through. I'd like to talk a little bit now about the benefits of what I have found of this awareness practice of my reactive state. And again, I want to emphasize that the reactive state is constantly changing, is particular to each of us. We all react differently to different situations. And the reactive state is also dependent on our personality. It's dependent on our mood, our makeup of our day. Our reactions can be different if we didn't get enough sleep. Our reactions can be different if we drank too much the night before. Our reactions can be different if somebody just insulted us on the subway. All of this sort of changes the world we live in and how we react to it. Bringing awareness to that, bringing a sense of openness to that, bringing a sense of acceptance to that. So here are some of the things I found that have been really helpful in that process. there's a choice that comes up with that awareness. I'm driving in the car, somebody cuts me off, I get really angry. I'm aware of that anger. And then I have a choice. Do I follow through with that? Do I believe that? Or do I just let it be? And just maybe even just experience that anger for a while. There can be a sense of choice within that awareness. I think oftentimes we identify with our reactions. We think this is me. And we think this is real and solid to some degree. I'm cut off in traffic. I'm anger. And then it's like, oh, I'm an angry person. This is sort of who I am. When I see the anger as just a reaction to a state, there's less identification. There's the opportunity for less identification with it. It's applying what we can do with our sitting practice when a breath is just a breath, when a body sensation is just a body sensation, a reaction is just a reaction. And the sense of identity with it starts to dissolve a bit. Or there's that possibility with that. One thing I've really found with bringing awareness to my reactions too is that I can have a sense of humor about it. Not beat myself up so much about it, not have such judgment about it. Again, I mentioned that I was getting anxious a few days ago because I hadn't really started to form this talk so much. And I know this is sort of how I react to situations. And I know this is a pattern that I have. But with that, now, with awareness, I can also bring a little bit of a sense of amusement with it. It's like, oh, here I go again. This is very familiar. I don't have to take it so seriously. And it can be a little bit funny even. So it's our sense of selves sometimes that we get, and our sense of reactive selves that we can get so caught up in that we can maybe, with this awareness, step back a bit, see it for what it is, and maybe even get a bit of a laugh out of it. So much of what I enjoy about this practice is connecting and aligning myself with what is true. What is true in any given moment. The practice is about waking up. The practice is about being awake. And when I can be aware of my reactive states, I can wake up in the middle of those. And within that alignment, there's an honesty. There's that is very liberating. It's not like we're someplace else. It's like just this, and this is okay. This is fine. This is just fine the way it is. So I've been noticing I've been feeling less solid. I've been feeling less stuck. I've been feeling more alive. I've been feeling more acceptance of the way things are as they arise in my reactive states to what is happening to me and how I am reacting to it in that moment. And I think this also plays into the Four Noble Truths, which is freedom from suffering. Because so much of what the Four Noble Truths is about is that something happens and we react. And we react in ways that we either want, or we either don't want, or we're just sort of a little bit brain dead. And that's where the suffering comes up. It's like not being okay with the way things are, but wanting things to be different, either by wanting more or less. This is the suffering of the Four Noble Truths. And this is the suffering of a reactive state. Something happens and we react. And to be aware of that offers the opportunity for freedom from that suffering. With being less stuck, with being more alive, with being more aligned, with being less attached. So, we sat here for 30 minutes. We brought some simple awareness to our experience in that silence, in that deep personal silence. And within that, we can use certain points to help build that awareness. The breath, the body sensations, the states of mind. And we build this muscle of awareness. We become more familiar with this awareness, this ability to see, this ability to connect, this ability to connect in a way that is not colored, that is not part of it. It was like I was saying when I was sick, and I could see that sickness. When we sit here, we can see that breath. We can feel that body sensation. And we can do it in a way that is very alive, very accepting, very pure. And we build that muscle, that ability to be aware. And to take that muscle of awareness and apply it to our reactive selves. And to use it so when we see ourselves reacting to things, when we see ourselves lost in emotional states, when we see ourselves caught up in judgment, to apply that awareness like, oh yeah, judgments, oh yeah, the anger, oh yeah, fear, oh yeah, tightness of body because of anxiousness. This awareness that allows it to just to be. There's great freedom, there's great liberation in that. I think for the longest time in my practice, I was looking for a really big, ultimate, aha liberation that I had to work towards, that I had to work really hard towards. And I would say that now I'm more appreciative and more in tune with these really sweet moments of liberation that are available to all of us. That we can be completely lost and caught up into something, and yet the awareness that we can bring to that gives us this freedom, this liberation within that. This ability just to be and be fine with it. Because isn't that sort of what we want? It's just to say, this is okay the way it is. I don't have to struggle all the time. I don't have to be stressed out all the time. Or even if I'm stressed out, I'm okay with that stress. I have awareness of that stress and I'm okay with it. It's just stress. I want to open it up for discussion, but I've been trying to relay something that is, for me, a little indescribable, and I hope that, it's my hope that I have done it in such a way that can offer everybody here a chance to apply awareness to a reactive state, and that you can find some sort of peace and liberation and alignment within that. Because like I say, I want to talk about things that have been very beneficial in my own practice, and this has been a great place for me to explore. And I hope it offers at least some of that to everybody here. So we have about 12, 13 minutes for feedback. We have 12 or 13 minutes for reactions. Tom.
Thank you, Bill, for such an illuminating talk and for going into the judgment that often follows awareness. That was like where my questions were swirling around, but you answered all of them. But you just mentioned, I'm aware of stress. It's just stress.
Right.
And this seems to be one area that's problematic because, when I'm stressed out, when I'm in stress, there's sort of this mentality like, I'm not going to be okay until I can get this down. You know,
Right.
this level of stress has to go away. I'm locked in this battle until the battle's over. It's not going to be okay. I can't just sit here and be with it.
Right.
It seems to be that the particular emotion or feeling or sensation that is the most problematic. How do you what can you say about help me?
Yeah. Boy. That's sort of what I've been trying to do in my talk. Maybe I wasn't very good at it. But part of it for me is, okay, I notice I'm stressed out. And like I was talking to you earlier, I was noticing moments of anxiousness for me. And part of what I do is I feel it physically. And it's just like, okay, it's just a physical sensation. It's tightness of body. It's smallness of body. It's contraction. There can be some heat with it or something like that. So part of what I do is I feel it physically. But the other thing is the awareness, and this also happens over time, is that you realize that things change, things aren't so solid, so that because I think a lot of times what we really get freaked out about is that we're going to be stuck there. And that stress is never going to go away. But also how stress feeds upon itself. Stress builds more stress, and it's the judgment that comes with it. If I'm stressed out, I don't want to be stressed out. I want to be someplace else. And so part of what I was also trying to illuminate is the fact that just being where you are gives some sense of space and openness around that. And to see that with our ability to see that in a way that doesn't have judgment, that just sort of sees it as stress, I'm finding a possibility of liberation within that. And so, the stress might continue for a really long time. You might need to do other things about it, but there at least is some alignment of this is where I am. And I'm aware of that. And it's going back to the Four Noble Truths too. It's not applying those extra layers of suffering on that. I'm stressed out. I don't want to be stressed out. That's sort of the extra layer of suffering that we really don't need with that. I just am,
I recommend remodeling your kitchen as a great spiritual practice. I've gone through quite a gamut of reactivity regarding my initial decision to go with a particular vendor, Lowe's in particular, not to mention brand names, but also to realizing that I could save money by hiring people individually to do various jobs.
Right.
And anger has been a significant portion of that.
Right.
When people do not show up and I have to kind of rearrange my schedule.
Right.
And I've let it, I've certainly expressed that, but I think I've had, thanks to my experience with the Dharma, enough insight to short-circuit that prolongation of that anger to realize I'm only hurting myself at this point.
Right.
There's nothing I can do about this. But however, also trying to express the anger in a constructive way so that I can tell the person that I'm angry about their actions, about this is what caused, this is the inconvenience that it caused, and this is how, if you do it, how you can do it better. Just give me a call, let me know,
right.
That kind of stuff, so that I can change that. So I really appreciate your talk today, because it had helped reinforce something I'll be needing for the next umpteen weeks. It's that awareness that allows me to short circuit further suffering.
Right. Thank you, because that's what I was hearing, is that you had anger, then you were aware of it, and you didn't necessarily act on it in a way that was inappropriate. You responded in ways that are more appropriate, and so that awareness gave you some space to respond differently, which I think is great. So thank you for that.
I
Hi, thank you so much. I feel like your talk was very practical. This is something I can do anytime,
Right,
anywhere.
right,
I don't have to be in a meditation hall.
right.
But you know what?
Meditation hall helps to practice, though. Yeah, sorry.
Helps the law from the gym of
Right.
spirituality.
Right.
So, but I was, one thing I have trouble with is when I'm in, it's kind of like the collective sense of, reactivity. Like, and I feel oftentimes like when I'm in a large group, it's harder for me to find that spaciousness that you're talking about. Like when you were at the Castro Street Fair, you were able to somehow find it and, in a way, not be identified with the reactions. But I find that there's something I can do when I'm with myself or when I'm in a familiar context. But when I'm in a larger group context, it seems like it's harder.
Right.
For me.
You're right. But then just be aware of that. And it's harder. And then also maybe be aware of what that feels like and what, the reactions of emotions around that, or the reactions of judgment around that. I wish I was more social in bigger groups, or whatever it is, And again, there's I think what we all want is just some level of acceptance where we feel like whatever's going on is okay and we're at peace with it. So thanks for sharing personally about that. But again, see how maybe it can be applied in other ways. And I appreciate the fact that you can see some practicality in this, because that's what I like most about this practice sometimes. It's something that we can use. It's something that can be really beneficial, and that it can be incredibly practical. And like I was saying a little bit earlier, it's like liberation is not something that we get after. Liberation can be something we get after, a million lifetimes of practice. But liberation is also something we can get right now in this moment. So. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your talk. It's really, like John was saying, to hear you really share somebody were to ask you what's your meditation practice, it was so broken down. And like you, I find the Enneagram really useful. I'm also in the fear corner. But I like about the Enneagram and the way that your talk described the personality. We have styles. Everybody has a style.
Right.
And I remember Ron saying one time, when your personality becomes your style, you got it made.
Right.
So
Right.
That's really helpful. And
right.
this morning I was driving over here, and I haven't facilitated for a while. I had surgery on my foot, so I've noticed I was feeling anxious driving across the bridge. And I thought, I'm feeling anxious. I wonder if it'd be like not to be anxious. And that just helped, just reorient myself, and like you used the word realign, to align ourselves like with the witness or the awareness.
Right.
It's really helpful.
Right.
And, very refreshing. We had last week someone talked about the second foundation of mindfulness and the vagueness, so this is a great continuation of the practical.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because this is a lot what it is.
Yeah.
It's the reaction to our experience, which is the Vedana, right?
Which is separate from the awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
But to apply the awareness to those reactions.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. See how I am.
Yeah. I like your Ramdas quote too. Thank you.
Sure.
No, because it's true. It's and part of the personalities that we have is the coming to apply awareness to that. This is my personality. Yeah. This is how I respond. This is how I react. And to do it with style.
Yeah, with style.
Right? We're gay, so we have to.
One more quick one.
There are a lot of Enneagram books out there. Which was the one from which you read that quotation?
I don't know. I have one at home, and I grabbed it off the back of that, and I think it's the woman who sort of developed the practice up in Marin. Yeah. I couldn't tell you which one though. Yeah. And I haven't studied it that much myself. I take solace in the fact of knowing that there are personality types, and that that we all react differently, sort of based on our personality. We also react differently based on how we were raised and how our parents treated us. I'm always aware of the fact that I react as a Midwesterner because I grew up in Kansas. I react as a child of the 60s because I still have all these hippie values. I react as a gay man and as a man because of that. All these things gauge into my reactive state, along with my personality type. And I like to know that there are different personality types. And there's something liberating in that, is that ours don't become so important or so difficult or so all-encompassing. That's what I really liked about the Castro Street Fair the other day was there's all these different options out there. And there's liberation in that.
Thank you very much. Announcement meditation. Next week we have an open discussion where we break up into small groups, discuss a topic selected by the facilitator. And the following week will be a schedule change. Originally we had Gary Ost speaking, but my friend that I went to India with last year is going to be here. He's in town visiting, so he's agreed to do a kirtan. We'll be doing some chanting, which is a great heart practice, and hopefully you guys will come partake of that. GBF, we operate on the principle of Dharma, which is the principle of generosity. In the East, it's embedded in the culture, but here it's really not so much. Basically, the practice of generosity is one of the highest states in Buddhism you can practice, and you get the benefits of giving and knowing that you're supporting the teachings and keeping this going. If you want to see a list of our expenses out there, they're by the Donna Bowl. Our suggested donation is $10. We can give more if you can. Give what feels generous to you. So, other announcements.
I'm the host today, and I'll be going around with the Donna Bowl. And in addition, there are some snacks on the table out there. There's hot water for tea. And if you have tea, please wash your cup with soap and water afterward. There's a sign-up on the desk there if you want to receive the newsletter. And at 12:30, people usually gather around the door to go to lunch, everyone's welcome.
Yeah, we have a account at Community Thrift at 17th and Valencia. If anything that no longer serves you, it's a great way to provide dollars to the Sangha. We get a quarterly check, it's usually a couple $100, so consider that also.
Thank you. Yay. Okay, I'd like to re-welcome Ryan and Daniel. Hope you'll join us afterwards for tea and poo-poo platters. We'll end now with the dedication of merit. By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment, too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that live.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.